All right, 3.6 ratios and proportions. That's the title of the section. We're going to focus on solving proportions and setting them up from word problems. So if you recall our Cornell notes that we've already taken, a proportion is just when you have one fraction equal to another fraction or a ratio equal to a ratio. So we want to cross multiply, and when we cross multiply, we need to make sure that we distribute if we need to distribute, and then just simply solve the equation. So that's what we're dealing with here. So if you think you can handle giving that a shot, then try that on your own first. But let's see what we'll get here. When you cross multiply, it doesn't matter which side you put the products on. So if I do 4 times 3 and I get 12 and I want to put that on the right side, that's fine. If you want to put it on the left side, that's fine. Now when we cross multiply this way, it might be helpful to put this in parentheses so that you remember that you have to distribute that 2 to both of those things inside. So 2 times x, now I'm going to do it the long way the first time, and then I'll do the shortcut on the next one. So you can write it out, 2 times the quantity x minus 5 first, and then distribute it if you think you might have some trouble there. Or you can skip this step altogether and just distribute it as you cross multiply. Okay? And then this becomes a two-step problem, a two-step solving problem. So we want to undo addition and subtraction first. So we add 10 to both sides. We get 2x equals 22. And we want to get x alone, so we divide by 2. We get x equals 11. So some people, when they cross multiply, when you're deciding what goes on each side, most people are more comfortable with the variable on the left side. So that might be a thought, is that you want to not have to flip this over at the end, so you always distribute and put the variable on the left side. So just think about that if you want. All right, in number 2, cross multiply, I'm going to go the variable first so I can get that on the left side. And I'm going to go ahead and distribute it. So 9 times x is 9x, plus 9 times 3 is 27. When I cross multiply this way, 2 times 2 is 4. So still, if you want to skip this step, that's fine, but it still might be helpful for you to put that in binomial, that's called a binomial, in parentheses, so that you remind your brain that you have to distribute it. The most common mistake is to write 9x plus 3 and just bring that 3 down instead of distributing to it. So don't make that mistake. We want to undo addition and subtraction next. So we subtract 27. 9x equals 4x minus 27, which is, 4 minus 27, not 4x minus 27. So we will get negative 23, Then when we get, x alone, we'll divide both sides by 9, and we'll get this beautiful fraction, x such that x equals negative 23 ninths. Now I can't simplify that at all. They are not divisible by the same number, so I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not even going to change it to a mixed number. So that is up to you. If you want to change it to a mixed number, you can, but you are not required to. All right, in number 3, we have a binomial on the bottom here and a binomial here. It's called a binomial because it has 2 terms. Okay? But we're going to cross multiply the same way. Now, when you cross multiply both ways, you'll have a variable, so it doesn't matter what's on which side. So let's say I go this way first. Okay? So I distribute the 3, I get 3y, don't forget to pass it out to the minus 3, so minus 9 equals. And then for the second half, when I multiply anything times 1 or distribute that by 1, of course these are going to stay the same. Oops. Okay? So from here, we have a variable on both sides, so we'll use what we learned in section 3.5 and collect all the variables on one side by moving the smaller variable. So we're going to subtract y from both sides. 3y minus y gives me 2y. And then we want to continue solving. So we want to undo addition and subtraction. So we're going to add the 9. So we get 2y equals 9 minus 5, which is 4. And then we'll divide by 2. So we get y such that y equals 2. Okay? So solving the proportion, very simple. Just remember to distribute if you have two terms and distribute to both of those terms, okay? Let's move to the back. We're doing word problems with proportions. I like these. These are fun. These are very popular on standardized tests. So this is a huge skill, very simple. So you want to make sure that you have mastered this because this will help you quite a bit. All right, so it says use a proportion to solve each problem. If Steph can shoot 62 goals in 110 minutes, about how many goals can she shoot in 1 hour? Now, some of you could do this without using a proportion, but the directions say use a proportion, and you must follow the directions. So remember, a proportion is just a fraction equal to another fraction. So here's the thing. If you focus on the sentences, they will give you the ratios. If Steph can shoot 62 goals in 110 minutes, so those two are going to go together. So that's 62 goals, and we put a G so I know this is where my goals go. And she can do that in 110 minutes. So I'm going to put an M there for minutes. Okay. And then in the second half of the sentence, it says about how many goals. So that's the question. How many goals? So we don't know how many goals. That's where your variable will be. Can she shoot in 1 hour? Now we have to be careful here because we don't want to put a 1 down here. This is where the minutes go. So we need to convert that 1 hour to 60 minutes. So the purpose of the label here is to make sure when you do set up your second ratio that you put them in the correct place, because of course if you don't, you will not get the correct answer. So make sure that you put your goals here and your minutes here. Now technically you could flip that upside down. You can put the minutes on top and the goals on the bottom, but then this one would also be flipped upside down. So just even one letter here. Just give yourself a little label so that you really pay attention to what should go here. Okay? And then we just cross multiply and solve. And usually cross multiplying and solving these is really simple. So we get 110x equals 62 times 60, which is 3,720. We want to solve for x, so we divide both sides by 110. So we get x equals 33.8. Now generally, I will not let you use decimals, but the final answer here is going to be a sentence, and we're going to round it. So you don't need to have an exact fraction here. So it says, how many goals can she shoot in 1 hour? So we say, Steph can shoot. Now this is an approximation. This means about. You don't have to do that, but can shoot about 34 goals in 1 hour. Okay? So, rule of thumb, if it is a word problem, your answer must be in words, not set notation. Now, if you put it in set notation and you give the words, I'm not going to mark that wrong, so you're fine. Maps require often that we use proportion. So it says the scale map for Crater Lake National Park is 2 inches equals 9 miles. There's your first ratio. 2 inches equals 9 miles. And you can use more of the abbreviation too if you want. All right, moving on. The distance between Discovery Point and Phantom Ship Overlook on the map is about 1 3/4 inches. So we know that belongs here. Now you can use 1 3/4, or if you want, you could change it to 1.75. What is the actual distance in miles between the two places? So the miles is the question mark here. All right, cross multiply. We get 2x equals 9 times 1.75, and that gives us 15.75. We want to get x alone, so we divide both sides by 2. And what we get is 7.875. You can write that too. If you want to not round it at all, that's fine. And we would say the actual distance is about 8 miles. Remember, when you're rounding, it's 5 or above. Give it a shove. So since 8's above 5, we'll give it a shove and round it up to 8. All right. The last one, the Browns minivan requires 5 gallons of gas to travel 120 miles. Stop. There's your first one. 5 gallons to travel 120 miles. Okay. How much gas? So the question is, how many gallons of gas will it need to travel 350 miles? Don't write anything else there. All right? And we cross, multiply, and solve. So we get 120x equals 350 times 5, which is 1,750. We want to get x alone, so we divide both sides by 120. And we get 14.583. So how much gas will it need to travel 350 miles? It will need about, now, you could get away with saying 14.5 gallons because it is actually closer to 14.5. But the safer would be to follow your rounding rules and say about 15 gallons. All right. I love proportions. I hope you love them as much as I do.